The Airport Commission says no to a solar project proposed by Cape Air. We have details from the recent Airport Commission meeting on this episode of Barnstable Today. It's Monday, January 25th, 2016. I'm Sarah Mantle. The Airport Commission shuts down a proposed solar project at Cape Air. Cape Air officials presented its plans for a solar carport during last week's Airport Commission meeting. Once up and running, the carport would have generated income for both Cape Air and the airport. Despite that, Airport Commissioner Michael Dunning says he is worried that Cape Air's main lease will expire in 15 years, while the proposed 20-year lease for the carport would still be in effect.
The purpose of this is basically that that the new lease, if you want to call it the new lease on the 39,000, the overall arching purpose of this is to make sure that we don't have a lag period between the termination of your lease and the termination of the second lease. In other words, you're a prime tenant of ours. You have, probably our greatest tenant, okay? And you have a parcel out there that has a lease that goes through June 3rd, 2030. The idea that we might end up as a result of all these machinations here, with you're not renewing your lease in 2030. I'm not talking about doing anything now, but whenever you might want to consider that issue. And then you do not renew it, but then we would be ending up with this little lease of 39,000 square feet at a really pivotal corner of the airport. Okay, and what it would have on it is a covered parking garage with solar panels on it. Okay, and during that 6-year period, we would in effect be held hostage to that lease for 6 years. Right now, you don't have to do anything, and you have control over that parcel of land. Now, whether or not you deal with, with the solar array experts or whoever they are, the manufacturer, calls that it has to be a separate piece altogether or something, maybe it does. But you have control of that until 2030, regardless of anything. But from that period, June 30, 2030, for let's call it 6 years, it could theoretically be that you would have no interest in your existing parcel or anything else, and yet we'd be stuck with a lease on a 39,000 square foot property that's a very limited in use and scope, is not particularly attractive, isn't tied into your business anymore because you wouldn't have the business there anymore. And it could definitely negatively impact our ability to develop that part of the airport until that lease was terminated. So what I suggest here, to deal with this particular issue, and no other issue, is that the two leases, the existing lease and the lease on the new parcel, or the new lease, be coterminous. In other words, that lease terminate the same lease, same day as the existing lease does, provided that if you renew your lease until or on the date on or after December 31st, 2036. In other words, if you have a 6-year extension or 10-year extension, that this lease would be the lease on the small parcel would continue until 2036.
Airport Commission Chair Ronald Pursuti echoed Dunning's concerns.
We know how important you are to this airport. And we are trying to accommodate you every time you come forward. And I think you can see the accommodation, or at least I hope you've seen the accommodation from a financial standpoint with your existing lease. Now, 6 members of this board were on that when the lease was negotiated. And tremendous amount of give and take was, I don't know if you were president, Mary, or not. I don't know if you were here, Jim, but there was a lot of give and take, and there was a lot of accommodation for recognizing the worth of Cape Air. I feel the same way today, okay? I would love to accommodate Cape Air. My problem is what you're asking us to do for, not for a small project, a small amount of money, not necessarily to us, but you're asking us to essentially tear up a lease. It's a third of the way through, rewrite it at the same cost as if it had continued on for 20 years. All right? I have a problem with that. That is, in my opinion, precedent setting. Okay? You're in private business, you can do anything. We have some limitations in the public. I think I expressed this at the last meeting. That's my problem. If we can't come to an agreement, I personally can't support it at your request currently, and I will vote no on it.
Cape Air President Linda Markham and Sustainability Initiative Director Jim Wolf attempted to ease commissioners' concerns before the vote.
The word accommodation, I think from our perspective, we take a little bit of offense to that
as
far as accommodation. Because I really see it more as a partnership, and I see it as a long-term partnership, that Cape Air has been part of this community and been part of this airport for over 25 years. And that is a choice that we made to be here. We have invested significant amount of money in our facilities, over $1 million in the fleet hangar, which was just a hangar, and invested a tremendous amount of resources and money. We've recruited all of our employees to this base. We want to be here. We've made that very clear to Bud, and I believe to the commission on numerous occasions. So, with that being said, I'd like Jim, you to speak about the lease and the terms of that.
Well, at the last conversation that we all had, friends, I think the takeaway point, and Katie and Bud, we talked about it was like, what is the commissioner's concern, and what are we dealing with? We're seeing that difference. I think we've addressed it since the last meeting. Do you, Bud? The issue of getting stuck with a solar project sitting there when Cape Air is gone, that's what I'm hearing from you, Mike.
Right.
And so, what we basically have addressed is that solar project can become the property of the airport. Unlike a building which is not producing income at that point, if you inherit from somebody who walks or negotiates a nice lease in a building, it's sitting there and it's building. A solar project is earning money. It's still making from the sun. And so I think, we discussed this, we think that we have the solution, and what it is that if we're not there, once that prime lease expires, the airport can take the solar project over from us.
It's already in the lease agreement, isn't it?
Well, now, if we leave a property, and if you leave a building when you're leaving here, I think your standard leases say you have 30 days to remove your stuff, otherwise it vests in the airport. And so at that time, we'd like to install in this lease that from the day of July 1st, 2030, which is where we're now into a situation which is past our prime lease, the airport could at any time, at its choosing, own that solar project. So what that means is that you sort of solve the problem, because once you own it, you can do whatever you want with it. You can have parking under it and continue to make money from it for as many years as it continues to produce after that. Or you can take it away. You cannot exercise your option, and if we're gone, then it becomes upon us, if we leave the airport, to take it away. But you have the ownership, if you choose to take it, in the lease. And I would defer to Bud and Katie about this to see whether we have answered it from your point of view.
Despite those arguments, the Airport Commission voted to reject the project. At this point, it's still unclear as to whether Cape Air will again attempt to bring the project before the board. Well, be sure to tune in to our hour-long news program, Barnstable This Morning. That show airs weekdays at 8 a.m. On tomorrow's show, we will chat with Police Chief Paul McDonald. We'll talk with DPW Director Dan Santos. Plus, we'll have all the news and information you need. For Barnstable Today, I'm Sarah Mannel.